All right, in this tutorial, I'm going to show you a couple tips and tricks for changing colors in a pattern such as this that has, multiple color changes in crocheting. And you can use it when you're doing this multiple heart pattern or this pattern that I posted from Lakeside Loops. She does a really good, nice little pattern with a single heart that it seems to be very popular. I've gotten a lot of good feedback on her pattern. I'm going to show you a couple things that I learned while doing this, and one is a technique um, to change color so you don't get a slight color peeking through. And it also is going to help you understand better how to weave your yarn in on the back side so that you have a nice clean back and you don't have a lot of loose crossover yarn. So we're going to look at those two things. It's a really nice pattern we have posted. I developed this style hat because I tend to like to work from the top down in a beanie style when I'm doing things like um, chemo hats, or some people prefer the more of a skull cap type thing. I love, absolutely love this design, and it makes a great winter hat that you work from the bottom up, and then it has this kind of scrunchy top because you cinch it at the top. So I absolutely love this, but I wanted to have some flexibility in a beanie style pattern. And I like the idea of doing some smaller hearts for smaller kids. So I went ahead and did this. So I'm almost done with my hearts. And I thought it would be a good time to share how I both weave in my ends so that the yellow, I'm pulling my yellow through so I can use it for my next heart without having a lot of crossover. And then I'm going to change colors when I get to this. Right now the pattern is I'll be going blue, and then I'll be going one blue into this yellow heart and then doing one yellow and then one blue to make the point of my heart. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So I've been working the pattern through just like usually do. And when you do start your first color change, you'll have both the blue and the yellow. And you know, I like to work my yellow strand when I'm working two colors. You want to pull it along with your yarn if you're going to change a color again. If you're not going to change color, for the pink, I tend to just let it loose and then trim it and then weave it in. But if I know I'm going to be changing colors back and forth, I don't want to cut it every time and then have to weave all those ends in. This makes it a lot cleaner and it works up faster. So I'm going to want to make sure that I'm taking this yellow yarn along for the ride. So how I do that is, try to keep my hands out of the way, but I'm going to yarn. I've already changed colors, so I'm on my blue, and I'm going to just use my fingers, and you can hold your yarn whatever way you like to hold your yarn. I tend to have this um, middle finger free and my thumb, so I can kind of use that as a guide. And in this particular pattern, I've got this pulled pretty tight so you can see the hole. Um, but you're going to, it's a double stitch. So I'm going to stitch in my current, the stitch I just came out of, and then I'm going to pull the yarn through and then stitch to the next one to make up one stitch that's going to cross over this kind of post. So I'm going to stitch in the stitch I came out of, and then the next stitch, and then I'm going to pull through. And there is a tutorial for the double stitch with the pattern, with the Lakeside Loops pattern that's really good. And they have a chart in there too that helps too. But I pulled, like I said, I pulled mine. It makes for these pretty large holes, which is kind of nice too. Um, but you're going to stitch in the stitch you just came out of, and then stitch into the next stitch, and then pull through all three. But you can see I'm stitching this yellow right along with it so that it is hiding it within the stitch. That's the key. So we'll do this again slowly so you can kind of see I'm going into the stitch I just went in, came out of, and then pull through, and then I'm going to go into the next stitch and pull through. Whoops, make sure I'm on the other side of that yellow. And I'm going to do it all the way to the yellow. So I'll do it one more time. It's okay if the yarn gets loose, because you can always pull it tight at the end. I kind of give it a tug at the end. So it's okay if it's not too taut. Through, go into the next stitch, go through. This pattern calls for me doing one more stitch into this yellow because I'm going from 3 to 1 to make my point. So I want to do one more blue. So one more blue. So that reduces my yellow. And then it's time for me to switch colors. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to take this yellow yarn. I like to flip it behind the blue because that way my yarn doesn't get tangled. And before I actually make the stitch, I'm just going to do a slip stitch. I have my yellow yarn instead of my blue, and now I'm holding the blue where my yellow was. I'm going to pull this yarn through a slip, just like you're doing a slip stitch, and pull it top there and top there. So you've changed colors. So that's even before you make your next stitch. You're just going to change colors. And then you're going to go into that same stitch, into the next stitch, and make your double stitch. All right. And then I'm ready to change back to the blue for this pattern. So I'm going to switch back to my blue. Switch fingers. Just take your time. Well situated. I like to pull this a little taut because you're going to want to pull it because then it'll pull that slip stitch tight and you won't see it. And you're going to, once again, pick up the blue, slip stitch it in, give it a nice tug, give the yellow a nice tug, and that way you have your change of color. And then you're going to do the next stitch. So the first time I did this, I just went ahead and did the next stitch and switched over the color, and that's where I was getting my little blue through. So now you have a nice transition from blue to yellow, and you also have it woven in. So you can continue the pattern around